One of the reasons I started actively posting on YouTube this year was to give a voice to some of my creative work. I've been making music for over 20 years, but I've done very little self-promotion for a whole bunch of reasons, which has meant that any music I've written, if I ever released it, it was completely without context, unless it was for a video game. Even if a track had some deep personal story attached to it, nobody else would know that just from listening, and there would be no reason to listen to it in the first place because who the hell is Andrew and how would any of my stuff get on your radar? Most of the people visiting beattherapy.com were just checking if the domain was for sale. So I was making music, releasing it with no context to a non-existent audience and wondering why record producers weren't calling me and offering me multi-million-dollar contracts. This obscurity has been compounded by the lack of lyrics and vocals for most of my work. So I want to open up a video I posted back in January and deconstruct it a little bit. I was jamming on my OP1 and was on a bit of a roll for the month, making cool sketch tracks on a daily basis as part of January. I wanted to make more videos showing me actually playing the OP1 and record some of the creative process where I discovered new chords and melodies, but this kind of filled me with dread. Introducing a camera into my creative process still makes me pretty anxious, and it's something I'm working on. It's a bit like having someone read over my shoulder while I'm trying to write a letter or something. Anyway, I came up with this chord progression and I really liked it. I even made a B section, so I have the ingredients here for a full song if I could just write some lyrics and be bothered to finish it. Then I was browsing for some basic visuals for this quick demo track so I could post it to Instagram because nobody listens to music anymore, they need to watch it as well, apparently. I heard Vince Vaughn was in a movie a couple of years ago, and as part of the marketing for that, they released all these stock photos of business meetings, which were free to use. I didn't end up finding these in time, but that led me to the next idea anyway, of just using business people shaking hands. I wanted to subvert the corporate culture with my lo-fi dinky tunes and just play with some visual juxtaposition. Instead, I found this little gem on Shutterstock. At first glance, it seems perfectly benign and like a perfectly generic, successful business meeting. They're actors, after all, and that's all we're meant to see. Perfectly benign. Until I looked at it through my own anxiety X-ray specs and slowed the footage down. Suddenly it all hit me. One awkward failed handshake attempt and this whole scene became a nightmare of anxious panic and dark undercurrents. It was barely 2 seconds in real time, but this one awkward moment opened up a portal of self-examination and an abyss of social rejection. I gave the characters names. One sideways glance became an expression of contempt and disgust. The smiles all became masks, and there was an immediate and glaring hierarchy and a display of power. Strap yourself in, we're going on a journey into mental health. Everyone experiences anxiety and self-doubt in some form or another, unless perhaps the person in question is a psychopath. For most people, it's a moment that comes and goes, nothing to dwell on, or nothing that playing some Taylor Swift won't fix in 3 minutes. For other people though, this can be a crippling condition that impacts daily life, relationships, and everything else. And if it's a frequently occurring condition, the person experiencing it learns to mask it, and finds a way to hate themselves just a little bit more for experiencing it in the first place. It's a vicious cycle. So here in my little scenario, we have this guy I'm calling Brad. Brad is cocky, confident, has a lot of social capital and probably very little empathy. Next to him is a woman I'm calling Jane for no particular reason. Jane is pleasant enough, has a great smile, isn't really a power player, but she knows how to stay on the side that wins, which in this case is not the side that Karen is on. Karen is the star of this little sketch, and in my interpretation, maybe I'm projecting, but we don't have time to unpack that. Karen has the least amount of social capital in this scenario. She goes for a handshake, gets the timing wrong, misses it completely, but stays smiling and nodding like everything's okay. But this wasn't where it all started. We can see Brad roll his eyes earlier, shake his head and mutter something to himself as he stands up and seems to close the meeting. Karen's been a goose since she started working there and Brad can't stand her. She's always trying to make friends by asking pointless questions or telling dead-end stories about how she grows coriander and how the fresh stuff's great in salads. Jane knows that sitting next to Karen would have been a huge mistake and that Karen's aura of desperation and awkwardness might have infected her. And later, she's smiling because she knows she made the right decision. The other lady in this shot, I'm calling Tammy. I don't think Tammy works there and the other three have been working hard to convince her to buy whatever it is they're selling. While all this is happening, you can notice these dark, turbulent moments that break up the music. This is the rising stomach acid and self-loathing that Karen is experiencing, all while Brad and Jane smile at her and manage to shake hands successfully. Karen can't help but smile, And she's also nodding at the missed handshake in a weird nod to her own deep insecurities. It's like, yeah, she didn't shake my hand, but that makes sense because I'm a horrible human being, but at least I was right about that. And this is fine. I deserve to be at the bottom of the social ladder. I'm gonna save these tears for my coriander plants when I get home. But anyway, this is just a sketch track, just a demo, just a few passing thoughts, but I thought I should at least try to unpack some of what goes on behind the scenes and what some of the thought processes are behind my music and what's beneath the surface. If you want to experience this little track, which currently has maybe 12 views so far, you can click here. I'm Andrew, this was Beat Therapy, and thanks for stopping by.